Good morning, all. As we enter into this service, please note that those of you participating via Zoom have been muted by our host. For those in the sanctuary, now would be a good time to check your cell phones. Also, be advised that this service is being recorded, and with the exception of joys and concerns, will be published online. Finally, if you wish to take a moment to arrange your own chalice at home, please do so. Darkness to light. Welcome, darkness. Welcome to the wind, the snow, the storm, to all that drives us deeper into our true selves, so that when the morning light breaks through the clouds and the Edelweiss blooms on the mountain, we will know that the passage was worth the struggle. Janet will light our chalice this morning in the sanctuary. I invite you to light your own chalice and place it where it can be seen by all of us. At times, our own light goes out and is rekindled by a spark from another person. Each of us has cause to think with deep gratitude of those who have lit the flame within us and the community. Thank you, Janet. Before we sing the first hymn, let me remind our remote participants to please leave yourselves muted. However, we do want you and whoever is with you to sing with us as big and loud as you like. Make it a joyous experience. Please stand if you are able and sing the opening hymn, Light One Candle, number 221.
Light one candle for the Maccabee children, with thanks that their light didn't die. Light one candle for the pain they endured when their right to exist was denied. Light one candle for the terrible sacrifice justice and freedom demand. But light one candle for the wisdom to know when the peacemaker's time is at hand. Don't let the light go out, it's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out, let it shine through our love and our tears. With the strength that we need to never become our own foe. Light one candle for those who are suffering the pain they learned so long ago. Light one candle for all we believe in, that anger won't tear us apart. And light one candle to bring us together, the peace that would calm in our hearts. Don't let the light go out, it's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out, let it shine through our love and our tears. What is a memory that's valued so highly? We keep it alive in that flame. What's the commitment to those who have died? When we cry out, they died not in vain. Have we come this far? It's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out, let it shine through our love and our tears. Good morning.
Our UUCC sanctuary sits on land that the Salinan and Chumash indigenous peoples historically inhabited. We honor their contribution to this region and give thanks for the opportunity to gather in faith on their unceded territory. Let us respect their legacy and protect their history as we occupy this sacred space. As Unitarian Universalists, we celebrate religious diversity and welcome all who journey in search of faith and spirituality. The UUCC is a lay-led congregation run by the democratic process. We invite speakers from different religious traditions and spiritual or scientific backgrounds to speak at our pulpit. We encourage presentations covering a variety of topics and areas of interest that connect with the UU7 principles. Today's service centers around the fourth principle. We affirm and promote a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. As responsible religious seekers, we recognize that we are privileged to be free, to have resources to pursue life beyond mere survival, to continually search for truth and meaning, to exist beyond bonds of dogma and oppression, and to wrestle freely with truth and meaning as they evolve. My name is Mary Ann Anderson, and I am your worship associate for this morning's service. Hi. I would like to extend a special welcome to today's guests and visitors. We're glad you joined us this morning. If you are not on the mailing list, please visit the UUCC website at www.uuccambria.org so that we can keep you informed about all of our activities. And please check out What's Happening, a weekly e-blast sent to all members and friends. This is a great way to keep up to date with our latest news. If you wish to see this or any past Zoom services, the recordings can be found on the UUCC website and on Facebook. The membership committee invites non-members to consider joining the UUCC. Please contact Diane DeMarco or a person on the board if you're interested. Thank you. So again, good morning and welcome to everyone. The affirmation is both a recognition of the nature of this community as well as a promise to which we aspire. Let us now recite the UUCC affirmation. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its prayer. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in freedom, and to help one another. We set aside this time for any announcements that would be of interest to our UUC community members and friends. Please keep your items short and to the point. If something needs more explanation, please call or email the person after the service. If you'd like to make an announcement, please raise your hand. And when Andy or I call your name, stand or unmute yourself and then speak. Are there any announcements here in the sanctuary? Randy? Mary?
He thinks his is better. But mine is better. I have the best announcement. Okay. Jan and I welcome all of you to join us this Wednesday for hymn and carol singing in this sanctuary from 4 to 6. It's for everyone, whether you want to be in the choir or you just want to be a stronger congregational singer or you just want to hear songs of the season. Thank you. 4 to 6. Bring snacks, 4 to 6.
Janet?
2 quick announcements.
Yeah, I can. Okay, Treva's just asked me to announce the board meeting at 6 o'clock this Monday. I believe it'll be Zoom. If anybody's interested in attending, contact myself or Treva. Was that you were going to? All right. Okay. Now I've got 2 announcements. I'm been receiving 2023 pledge statements. Thank you all very much. If you haven't submitted yours yet, please get it in the mail or bring it in. We'd like to get the process completed so we know what our 2023 budget will actually look like. And lastly, today is the last Sunday we're meeting this year. Next Sunday is Christmas Day, and then the following Sunday is the 1st of 2023. So I am unilaterally calling third Sunday, fourth Sunday. We will be collecting today for Heart because this is our last opportunity. And I'd like to write them a nice check at the end of the year. Okay, thank you. Randy?
Okay, and also for all of you music lovers out there, save Tuesday night, January 3rd, to be here at 7 o'clock to enjoy a fabulous concert by our 4 Shillings Short. They're troubadours that perform all over the world, and we have a nice close kinship with them. And they're basically Irish, but they play all kinds of music and all kinds of instruments. So it's going to be a great concert. Please make a point of being here Tuesday night, January 3rd, and it's free will offering. So enjoy.
Over to you, Andy. Anybody out there in Zoom land?
No hands raised in Zoom land, but I actually have a few. Let me come up.
Okay.
So tomorrow is the 3rd Thursday of the month, isn't it? Monday, 3rd Monday of the month. So the men's group would be meeting tomorrow here at the sanctuary at 10 o'clock. Second one, as a reminder, as every week, we have a meditation gathering on Thursday mornings here at the sanctuary. And another one, this is a new one. We have a thick string of cables coming down in the wall in the control room there. And I'm wondering if we have any creative weavers or seamstresses. That's not yeah, you get the idea. Seamsters who would like to sew kind of a sock, for cables to make them pretty. It would make them prettier. So if anybody's interested in that project, I'll talk to them about how to do it. Thanks.
So he's looking for somebody from the Seamsters Union. I was just kidding. I have one more announcement. Since we will not have announcements next Saturday, there will be a worship committee meeting on Monday, December 26th, Boxing Day at 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock. Watch for it. It'll be, it's right now it's 4 o'clock. Okay, but if you're interested in joining us, just send me an email. Otherwise, those of you on the committee be there. I'll be sending out a notice in advance. Okay, so Monday, 26th.
And I just want to give a shout out for the worship committee. The work that we do is extremely important. It brings every single Sunday service together with a speaker. Even if you're not on the committee or you may not even want to come on, just come to one of the meetings and understand what it is that it takes to bring people up to this pulpit. It's a worthwhile effort. And if you want to join, you're most welcome. Nobody else out there in Zoom land, Annie?
Nope,
Andy?
that's it.
Okay, good. There will be no service on Sunday, the 25th. At 7 p.m. on December 24th, I will be hosting a holiday eve service here in the sanctuary. We will show a timeless video of A Child's Christmas in Wales by Dylan Thomas, and it's narrated by the famous Shakespearean actor Denham Elliott. Don't miss it. We highly recommend you join us in person, as it's always better to share the experience together on this beautiful screen. And if you need assistance getting here, please contact Randy and a ride will be provided. For those attending via Zoom, you will be able to find the link to the YouTube version of the video on the UUCC website. Now today, being the 3rd Sunday of the month, we welcome a witness to this pulpit. A moment of witness is widely practiced in many faiths as a means to bear witness or give testimony about the way a specific religious affiliation has impacted one's life. Our hope is that in their moment of witness, a congregant here can briefly share a significant experience that moved them, helping all of us to deepen our relationship with the Unitarian Universalism and strengthen our ties to the community. And I think we have a special moment of witness this morning who's also going to light the Hanukkah candle. Joel.
When I was growing up in Connecticut, the synagogue that my family belonged to when I was a kid, had a contest one year to decorate your home for Hanukkah. And my family said, well, we'll join. We'll join the contest. So we decorated our home, and the rabbi came by and inspected as he went to all the entrants in the contest. And I looked around our house and I said, well, we're probably not going to win this. And we didn't. And then I thought that, what we're doing, we're really imitating the Christian families that all put their lights up and decorate their homes and light up their homes for Christmas. So we're kind of copycatting and doing it for Hanukkah. So the family that won, by the way, went all out. The dad was the head of my Boy Scout troop, and he had built a menorah, a giant menorah in his front yard with 9 giant electric, of course, and nobody could top that. So I'll light these. We're supposed to light them at sundown tonight, which is the first night of Hanukkah. We'll light it early. I think it will be okay. I spoke to the rabbi. It's all right.
Thank you, Joel. A candle is a candle is a candle by any other name, you know. Sharing together. Oh, okay. It's all right. Thank you, Mary. Sharing together some of our personal and significant joys and concerns brings us closer as a faith community. We invite you to share the milestones that are deeply felt as a part of your personal life, express a gratitude, or perhaps offer an acknowledgement. But please be mindful and considerate of all who come to worship with us this morning. The collective flames of these candles embody all the joys and concerns which may have gone unspoken today, but are also deeply felt in this community.
Moments of joy and sorrow, find solace in our hearts.
The first reading is called Hanukkah by Lynn Ungar. Come down from the hills, declare the fighting done, be bold, declare victory, even when the temple is wrecked and the tyrants have not retreated, only coiled back like a snake, prepared to strike again. Come down, try to remember a life gentled by daily acts of domestic faith, the pot set to boil, the bed made up, the table set in calm expectation that when the sun sets, we will still be here. Come down and settle. Unlearn the years of hiding. Light fires that can be seen for miles, that dance and spark and warm the frozen marrow. Set lamps in the window. Declare your presence, your loyalties, the truths for which you do not expect to have to die. It would take a miracle, you say, to carve such a solid life out of the shell of fear. I say, you are the stuff from which such miracles are made. Let us now join in a time of meditation, of prayer and silence. Let us seek the quiet and calm, laying aside our struggles. And in the silence, may there be a reverence in our hearts, a thankfulness within our spirit, and a deepened understanding of the meaning of our lives. Let us enter the stillness. Light shine in, illuminate our inward view. Help us to see with clarity. Shine bright and true so that we may join our songs in new sounds that become full symphony. The second reading is called Each of Us by Anne Fields. As we hear the familiar Christmas story, let us open our hearts to the images which speak to our lives. Each of us could travel a long and weary journey only to find that when night falls, there is no room at the inn. Each of us could be a shepherd, patiently caring for those who need us, who depend on us. Each of us could be a king or a queen in search of the holy, ready to offer our gifts. Each of us might sometimes hear an angel voices, singing of glory we have yet to know. And surely for each of us, there is a desert to cross, a star to follow, and a new being to bring to life. Please stand if you are able and sing It Came Upon a Midnight Clear, number 224.
It came upon the midnight clear, that glorious song of old, from angels bending near the earth to touch their harps of gold. Peace on the earth to all goodwill, from heaven the news we bring. The world in solemn stillness lay to hear the angels sing. But with the woes of war and strife, the world has suffered long. Beneath the angels' strain have rolled 2,000 years of wrong. And we who fight the wars hear not the love song which they bring. Oh, hush the noise of battle strife, and hear the angels sing. For lo, the days are hastening on, by prophet words foretold, when with the ever-circling years comes round the age of gold, when peace shall over all the earth its ancient splendors fling, and the whole world give back the song which now the angels sing.
Thank you. Today's sermon is titled Inside the Story by Reverend Ken Reed Brown. Reverend Ken Reed Brown retired this past summer following 35 years as a minister of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation First Parish in Hingham, Massachusetts, also known as Old Ship Church. Prior to his ministry at Old Ship, Ken served as the Associate Director of Cambridge Forum in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Ken holds a bachelor's degree in philosophy from Haverford College and his Master of Divinity degree from Starr King School for the Ministry in Berkeley, California. Ken continues to live in Hingham with his wife, Susan. They have 3 grown children and 5 grandsons, ages 1 month to 7 years, with 1 more grandchild on the way this February. He has been spending some of his retirement time recording kid songs for the grandchildren, accompanying himself on banjo, guitar, and mandolin. May I present my old friend, Reverend Ken Reed Brown.
Thank you, Marianne. Very much, Sunny, as we knew you back in the day. It's great to see you and great to see everyone. Great to be with you, even though I'm 2 or 3 time zones away. Wonderful to be with you again, I think for the 4th time. And though I'm not in my in our old ship meeting house anymore, I just have this postcard drawn, created by one of our members years ago. Anyway, really good to be with you again. Thanks to Marianne for making the connection to begin with several years ago, and for hosting again as our worship associate, and to all those who make worship possible today, and other Mary and Randy, Andy, and whomever else that I don't know who makes it all possible. And special thanks, Marianne, for your kindness in lighting the candle of remembrance for Jim. I miss him a lot, as we all do who knew him and loved him. Inside the story, poet Muriel Rukeyser once wrote that the universe is made of stories, not atoms. Stories, not atoms. So with that in mind, my sermon, Inside the Story. My grandmother died when I was, I think, 8 or 9, 11, 10, 11, I'm not sure, just about that time. Grandma had traveled out to St. Louis to visit some family members that she hadn't seen in a long time. And while she was there, she began having symptoms that clearly were symptoms of a heart attack, and she kind of let it go a little bit too long. So found herself in the hospital. My father, her son, Dad was a physician as well as her son, and went out to be with her at her bedside during what turned out to be her last days. Upon his return, Dad told us that from her hospital bed, Grandma wondered what would become of her grandchildren, her 3 grandsons, my 2 older brothers and myself. What would we do? Who would we be as we got older? For the story of her life was coming to an end, as she knew, just as our lives were pretty much near the beginning. And she was curious, naturally enough, even though realizing she wouldn't see how our lives unfolded and so on. She was curious, as quite natural. And decades later, indeed, when my father was living his last days, he too wondered what would become of his grandchildren, of his children for that matter too, who were by then young adults. A natural curiosity. This is, after all, how the wheel of life turns and turns again. Beginnings, middles, and endings of our lives all kind of mixed, woven together. Billy Collins, wonderful poet, has a poignantly delightful poem that he titled Aristotle, alluding to the philosopher's writings on the nature of poetics and drama. Collins' poem is too long to read in its entirety, but it begins with these words. He wrote, "This is the beginning. Almost anything can happen. This is where you find the creation of light, a fish wriggling onto land, the first word of Paradise Lost on an empty page. This is the first part where the wheels begin to turn." And then the second stanza includes these words. This is the middle. Things have had time to get complicated. Messy, really. Nothing is simple anymore. Collins goes on to elaborate in that middle part of the poem all the ways in which our lives, or our drama for that matter, or an opera or a book, get complicated. That's what makes it interesting. Then the final stanza includes these lines, poignant lines. He wrote, "And this is the end. The car running out of road, the river losing its name in an ocean, the empty wheelchair. This is the end, according to Aristotle, what we have all been waiting for, what everything comes down to." But here's the thing, as we know, the middle, many middles actually always still go on somewhere, though we may be at the same time marking apparent beginnings and or endings. The middles are always going on too. After all, we are born, our individual beginnings, in the midst of the middles of millions of other lives who follow us. And when we die, we leave behind the middles of millions of other lives of those who follow us. In other words, we will never see or experience how things all turn out when everything comes down to, in Billy Collins' words. And we certainly can't know ahead of time how things will go. After all, we live inside the story. Can't read ahead to the end of a novel or the last words of the final act of a play to get to the end. We can't know how our own lives will go. But what about the stories of myth and legend, such as the stories told and shared at this time of year? Stories I surely don't take mostly as accurate history. I expect you don't either. But is there value to trying to get inside those stories as if they were our own personal stories? Tonight, for example, is the first night of Hanukkah, as you know. The word means dedication. And the festival, as I expect you all also know, recognizes, remembers, tells the story of the rededication of the temple in Jerusalem at the end of the war, when the Maccabees had defeated the Seleucid king and his forces, King Antiochus. It was a rededication as well to their religious faith and to the idea of their freedom to worship as they chose in their own way. I mean, there's the story of the miracle of the candles and so on, but this idea of dedication is at the heart of the story. And this all happened a long time ago, but if we use our imagination to get inside the story, we may see how it reflects, this old story reflects some dimensions of our own lives, personally and collectively, certainly. Our struggles with forces and systems of oppression, effort to seek peace, our resolve to live our values without some arbitrary oppressive authority telling us what we must believe or how we must live. When we see this played out all around the planet, including in our own nation, but certainly quite devastatingly in places like Ukraine and elsewhere, Iran and so on. I love Lynn Ungar, one of my colleagues. She's a Unitarian Universalist minister, that first source of the first reading. I love her way of inviting us into this story, inviting us, as she put it, to settle into a life beyond fear, to, quote, declare your presence, your loyalties, the truths for which you do not expect to have to die. Seems to me this all sounds pretty relevant to our shared lives these days, our shared stories, doesn't it? And 6 days from now on Christmas Eve, another story will be told. The nativity story from the Gospel of Luke will be read in thousands of churches once again. Sure, we already know how this story goes and how the baby's life will go. In fact, right till the end, the last chapter and verse, at least as the story is told. We've read the book or heard the story, not to mention the ripples of the story for centuries beyond his life and death. But if we take the story seriously, which is not to say literally, if we take it seriously, the shepherds didn't know any of that. Mary and Joseph didn't know any of that. The three kings or magi, they didn't know any of that. None of them knew or had any sense of how the story might end. In fact, whether history or legend, the story becomes more powerful, I think, if we allow ourselves or invite ourselves to enter into the story, get inside the story as much as possible, sort of pretending that we, like the shepherds and the rest of them, don't know how it's going to go, how it's going to turn out. This is one of the reasons I found the Christmas pageant, as for many years we presented it at our Old Ship Church, was done. We invited anyone who wished, at any age, adults, kids, on the spot, to choose. We had costumes ready to choose to be a shepherd or to be one of the wise men or wise ones, as we call them, to be an angel, to be a star, and then to enter into the story as we told the story in our own Unitarian Universalist way. So to become one of the characters in the story. So you carry a shepherd's crook, wear a wise one's crown or an angel's halo. Perhaps imagine what it was like to be the innkeeper, or Mary or Joseph, with no place to lay their heads, and having their baby far from home, finding their place in a stable of all places. You're invited to enter into the story, maybe discovering something fresh about your own story as you do so, as a second reading suggested so beautifully. For example, have you ever had the experience of metaphorically, maybe literally, as you needed a place to stay, of finding there was no room at the inn, or not being welcome in some other context, not being invited, seen as other for whatever reason? Maybe it was a childhood memory, or maybe something more recent. And this perhaps while everyone around you seemed to be quite welcome. Or some of you right now, like the shepherds tending their sheep, where you are in the midst of tenderly caring for a dear one, a family friend or a family member, or a friend of yours who is in the midst of trial or suffering or illness. It's a task, as we all know, sometimes often filled with worries, fears, concerns, and often not knowing how things will go, how they'll turn out. Or maybe like the wise ones, you've been seeking the holy on a path of seeking meaning in whatever way you articulate it. On this path, sometimes there are dry places like a desert. And maybe not everybody understands your quest. And in this culture so driven by success, as the culture defines it, and money and so on, people not understanding. I don't know about you, but I can relate to just about all these dimensions of the story. So yes, entering into the age-old nativity story may indeed help us get inside the meanings of our individual stories, journeys, struggles, maybe even including feelings and emotions of this particular season, here and now, that we might have. The fear of the shepherds, the worry of the parents, the discouragement of finding no room at the inn, but the desire for finding some sacredness, some lift. Some parts of your journey during this season may have little to do, or seem to have little to do, with the joy of the angels singing, joy that we're all somehow supposed to feel this season. Yet their joy, the angels' joy, is somehow part of the story too. Maybe, I hope, part of your story this season, our story, part of ours, since we know that none of our stories are all joy all the time. This is, after all, in the nature of things, isn't it? This blend of sorrow and joy that marks our lives. The revered Vietnamese Buddhist teacher Thich Nhat Hanh of blessed memory, in a commentary on a Buddhist text, outlines what he called 11 guides for daily living. And tellingly, every one way or another, each guide encourages us not to wish for no trouble, no obstacles, no challenges, no difficult relationships. And why not? Because he reminds us, if we need reminding, that it is often through, in the midst of obstacles, challenges, and so on, that we grow, that we learn, and perhaps shed layers of ego and self-righteousness, that we deepen our compassion and commitment to helping others who have also worried, feared, faced daunting challenges, and so on, and perhaps find joy in the midst of it all. These are not incompatible, our struggles and our joy. Sometimes we find joy in the midst of struggle and challenge, all of which was maybe going on in that stable, fictional or otherwise, in that stable over 2,000 years ago, this blend of joy and worry and concern, and who knows what's going to happen. Or as my father once said to my brother Jim, in the midst of a period of time that in which Jim was facing some struggle and challenge, Dad said, "Welcome to the human race," where troubles in some measure come with the territory, along with measures of joy too. Well, what then, in the midst of troubles and challenges and obstacles, Aristotle's and Billy Collins' middle of the story, after all, where most of the action takes place, after all, where things have gotten quite complicated indeed, as Collins writes, and some of what I did not quote earlier, the middle, quote, teeming with people at cross purposes, The middle where, quote, disappointment unshoulders his knapsack. The sticky part where the plot congeals, where, quote, quoting again, here the aria rises to a pitch, a song of betrayal salted with revenge, and so on. What then? What then? And how then? Well, maybe it's simple, maybe, which is not to say easy. Here's what I mean. As we've said this morning, and as we know, we can't and don't know how it will all turn out, what the future will bring. But here's the thing, we can know and do know what we can bring to this moment and the next as we live into the future. We know what we can resolve to bring, what we can strive to bring as we live into the future of our story and our shared stories. Simply do the best we can, bring as much kindness and compassion and love to whatever we do, with a sort of leap of faith inside the story, since we don't know how things will go. It seems to me it's what each of the characters in both the stories that I've shared this morning did. A leap of faith with dedication, the highest of values, and with love. Kind of head and heart here. Perseverance, and generosity, and love. We can't control the outcome. We know this, though we too often forget it. And we will never know how everything turns out, because actually everything just goes on. Not just 3 acts or 5, and not just in our personal lives, but in the larger life we share in our nation and on the planet, in the midst of so much crisis now, from war to climate crisis and so on. Or as I said at the outset, we're born into not just our own story, but into all sorts of stories, millions of them already in progress. And when we leave the stage, millions of stories will still be going on, will go on, from the personal to the political and the global. Stories, some of them still in the middle or just beginning, on the wheel turns. We come to terms with this, learn to live with it, we better. And we come to terms with knowing only some things turn out, never everything, before our story ends. And my grandmother come to terms with it, my father, I don't know, I hope so. Can we come to terms with how the end of one story becomes the beginning of another, how all the stories are mixed and blended together, never turning out once and for all, following Aristotle's outline? Well, why not? This is, after all, the truth of our lives, our personal lives, and as I said, our shared life on the nation and the planet, that we are each more than our individual stories, each part of the whole fabric of humanity, of universe, of cosmos, each sort of thrown off as a spark of the universe, of the divine, using that language if you choose. So why not then this season and all the seasons of our lives, why not bring to our living the spirit of dedication to our most cherished values that we can absorb from the story of Hanukkah this year and every year and always? And why not absorb the spirit of love in the midst of all the more essential, in the midst of worries and fears and challenges that we can absorb from the story and the image of that story of the Nativity so many years ago. Dedication and love, passed from generation to generation, hand to hand, heart to heart, from grandmother to father to child, in the continuing complex and beautiful stories of our lives. Why not? May it be so. Blessed be.
This morning offering will now be given and received. Please remember, we are a self-sustaining congregation and provide all financial resources for our many ministries. We recognize the spiritual value of generosity and invite you to participate. If you are viewing this service remotely, please use one of the methods shown on the screen. Thank you. Our thanks for all gifts given and received for the work of this community. Let us now sing the doxology.
From all that dwell below the skies, let faith and hope with love arise. Let beauty, truth, and good be sung through every land by every tongue.
Please stand if you are able and sing the closing hymn, O Come, Emmanuel, number 225.
O come, Emmanuel, and with your captive children dwell. Give comfort to all exiles here, and to the aching heart bid cheer. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come within as love to dwell. Oh, come, you splendor very bright, as joy that never yields to might. Oh, come and turn all hearts to peace, that greed and war at last shall cease. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come within as truth to dwell. Oh, come, you day spring, come and cheer our spirits by your presence here, and dawn in every broken soul as vision that can see the whole. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come within as light to dwell. Oh, come, you wisdom from on high, the depths that hide within a sigh, to temper knowledge with our care, to render every act a prayer. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come within as hope to dwell.
Let us now recite the valediction. We have basked in the warmth and beauty of this flame and this community. As the chalice flame is extinguished, we shall carry its glow onward. Let us kindle new sparks within these walls and beyond. Please extinguish your chalice at home now. After the benediction, we encourage you to stay for questions and comments. Andy will call on you when you raise your hand. Ken?
this season and throughout the seasons of our lives, may we aware of whatever are our blessings, even in the midst of sorrow and challenge. Knowing, feeling our blessings, may we turn and make of our lives as best we can a blessing to others, a blessing to all life. May it be so. Amen and blessed be.